Well. Yeah, pretty cool. So we will start. We will start with everyone from the space founder circle right over here. I think I need to go and pick up my lucky pin. We will start with everyone from the space founder circle. Oh, who's there?
Hi, Gonzalo.
Emmanuel.
How are you?
Hello there. Rod.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, very well, man. You look sharper today. What's happening? What's happening? Rod? I don't know.
What do you mean under Sharper? I don't know.
Sharper means that usually you've got this dark background behind you, and today
Ah,
you've got more light. Definitely much better. Don't you think,
uh,
Manuel?
well, first of all, I bought, such how to show it,
A
like,
ring?
yeah,
I should go and pick up mine.
and
Yeah, you're right. I should go and pick up mine. Do you have one, Manuel, as well? Do you have one a ring one as well?
Yeah, I got one.
Ah, man, wait, I'm going to pick up mine. Wait, come on.
Take your time. Take your time. Did you already send the link to Josh for joining
yep,
us? Okay, perfect,
yep.
perfect. Yeah, I heard that Paige will also want to join us. So let's see. Um, okay, let's wait for a couple of more minutes. I did my preparation. I
Yeah,
also wrote down some questions. Do you want to do the moderation again, or Gonzalo, or should I do the stuff? Or
well, actually, I think it should be Gonzalo.
yeah, yeah, he did it last
I mean,
time.
basically, he's host, and he did the moderation last time, and I think he managed to deal with it very well.
Yeah.
I have a question about our next Friday because um, it was not clear. I have a couple of guys who are willing to attend, basically co-founder of Copernic Space and CEO of Space Plus NFT. I
Mhm.
haven't discussed with them, like basically they're waiting for the date.
Mhm.
I think I should make it in one verse, like a list, but it would be amazing to discuss it today. Oh, Josh is coming.
Okay. Yeah, it's totally fine. I mean,
But yeah, let's wait for others. I mean, Gonzalo have sent like a link uh, to a guy who's willing to attend. So I believe we should it's better to double check.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fine.
Oh,
Now
you
we
have
all.
Thanks.
Now we will all be.
uh,
Well, I've been using this for.
Gonzalo. In the meantime, a quick question. What about next Friday? You've sent a link to a guy who is willing to attend. Like I have two people who is willing to attend, and we should understand who
Yeah,
gonna attend next week.
I've got Nick Callahan. He's an ex Department of Defense DevSecOps executive. He just left the department, and I think I would really like to bring him because we've been bringing.
Yeah, just sorry, just to clarify, I mean we just so next Friday you'll bring that guy just to be sure, and I will push. I'll just tell other guys that it's not next Friday.
Oh, we have the main contender here, Joshua.
Uh,
Hey,
Hello.
how are we
Hey.
doing, man?
Loud and clear.
Um,
Loud and clear. Good. So I've got a microphone here. I'm just going to check to see if it's connected. This is
Oh,
what I'm using
very
now, but I'm going to use this one, which I think is.
no.
a bit more
Wait.
there, Joshua.
How is that? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it better now?
Actually, I think maybe before was better,
Before was
but
better.
I'm not
yeah?
sure.
That's a
As-
Really not
concern.
sure, but
What about now? How about now?
Yeah,
uh, now it's not working.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey, how's it
I can
doing?
hear you
Yes.
now. Is your mic connected now?
No, one sec.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
okay.
No. Yes. Better.
We can hear you. Yeah.
Worse.
It's fine. It's fine,
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay. Cool. All right. Good.
Perfect.
Okay, I think we're just missing Paige, but I had a conversation with Joshua before, kind of around the subject, and I made a post on what would be the a guideline for these. Okay, and like before, both Manuel, Rod, and me will be tracking what people ask and avoiding that someone that wants to do resumes comes live into the show. we have all sorts of crazy people in the world, but Joshua, we will ensure that you've got your time to present
Okay.
and talk and answer questions, and we'll just do a brief round to introduce ourselves, and then we hand over kind of to try to follow the prompts that we had, and I think that should be okay.
And a few notes from my side. I was amazed by MOU that Josh prepared for this world. Basically, in that memorandum of understanding, they described tokenomics with a lot of things that, frankly, I have no idea about. Like, I've heard about liquidity pools, but I know briefly what it is, but it would be great if you could somehow touch like all that modern tokenomics, how it works, how different approach to launch DAO, maybe a bit legal, so things related to that. That's like from my side.
Yeah. Sure. So, so what I'll
Hi,
do.
Paige.
Hey, Paige. What I'll do is I'll talk about the tokenomics and talk about liquidity pools and all that kind of DeFi and fun stuff. But I will say that I will not talk about any legal stuff, if that's okay.
Okay, sure.
You meant you'll not talk about any illegal stuff, correct?
Well, who knows what's illegal and legal in DeFi these days? Which is why I'm not touching any legal stuff, because no one knows what's a security, what's not security, and I don't want to be in a situation where I'm giving legal or financial advice to anyone.
Well, that's probably a good way to start the show. Okay.
To say no legal or financial advice with anyone here. This is all just an open discussion.
Paige, you look amazing today. Okay, not that in the other days you don't, but today you look more amazing. Okay, so thanks for being here.
We can't hear you,
We
by the way,
cannot hear
Paige. You're muted.
I think she thinks she will come back.
Question, guys. So this will be streamed on LinkedIn from here, so I don't have to go anywhere else now?
No, you don't need to worry about anything. And then, let's say in future editions, we'll see how to stream these to all platforms, Twitter included. After that, I'll share with you the links to the video, and if you want to utilize it across the board, it should be fine. Okay.
Perfect.
And one quick note, we have a private chat here on the right, like you have to click on the chat, and during the conversation, we will use it. So please take a look at this chat. I'm talking not about LinkedIn, I'm talking about
Yeah, I see it. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
So just to clarify, at the second to last point, it says, what are you looking for doing in the next year? Is that where you think I can talk about DeSci World's pre-seed round? Yeah, cool.
I could have been more direct on that one because
No.
you said-
I'm just double checking because I want you to be okay with me saying stuff about that. I don't.
No,
want
you should because you should because if you, I think, you can start. If we just look at the latest moon project, we got 12 guys, no, 11 guys and one girl going up to space surrounding the moon. It's beating all space programs in the world. It's really, it's, and I think I've got this challenge for you, Joshua. Is like, how can we beat that? The ones that are beating the ones that beat the others. I mean, how can we even increase more the speed with decentralized finance and this? It's really something to think about because definitely Elon Musk is beating everyone that is making a space program. It's clear. It's okay. So let's go. Okay, breathe.
Will Paige join again, or should we wait for a couple of more minutes, or do we
1
start
minute.
right now?
We have time to breathe.
Okay. We're gonna do it.
Time to go. Okay. Some minor technical things. Please bear with me. Okay, we are live. Yeah, we're good. Manuel, can you check if everyone is dealing well and if things are going live on the LinkedIn side, please, as well?
Sure. Let me have a look, guys. Okay. I see everything's working probably. Perfect.
Okay, welcome. It's Friday. It's a great time to bring people that do wonders for both the space world and the overall. My name is Gonçalo Esteves. I'll be helping on the hosting of this, as well as Manuel, Rod, and Paige that should be coming in. We have Joshua today. He's the founder of DeSci and DeFi. I'll just let everyone briefly introduce, and then we'll set the stage for Joshua.
Okay, perfect. I can start if it's okay for you guys. So thank you very much for every one of you who joined us today. Thanks for Joshua from DeSci World who joined us today, and for sure thanks Gonçalo and Rod for organizing this as well. My name is Manuel Lario. I'm the founder of Deep Venture IO, and we built a decentralized IP marketplace for the new space industry. I'm also the one of the founding members and the catalyst for our DSpace Space Founder Circuits in collaboration with ReFi DAO. So if you're totally open to contribute as well in this emerging Web3 and space movement, please feel free to contact us as well, guys. And what we do with Deep Venture IO is that we saw a lot of problems in the academic world. You can imagine in the academic world, we got problems related to IP ownership, for example, human resource contracts, the overall communication and collaboration stuff. And in the blockchain space, there are two major movements currently emerging. One is called ReFi, regenerative finance. So how can we create a positive impact for society with blockchain technology? And the other thing is decentralized science, DeSci. So how can we, as a community of scientists, also create a positive impact for society? And this is all about. So thank you very much, Joshua, for joining us today to teach us more about the insights of DeSci. And yeah, now it's your stage, guys. Who want to continue?
I think I'll take the initiative to allow Joshua to give Joshua more time to present himself. So thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks Joshua for I hope a great I know a great conversation about DeFi. I'm a founder of Alunco, and our mission is to accelerate lunar exploration by providing open source engineering software. We believe in permissionless software, and from my perspective, Web3 is a great way, and to DeFi is a great way to sustainably fund projects that benefit all the community, all the humans. Like it's a great way to fund public goods. So thanks everyone for joining. Thanks Gonzalo for hosting the event, and thanks Joshua for sharing all your knowledge about DeFi and how it works.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you all three. Thank you for having me, first of all, and thank you everyone for joining. So yeah, my name is Joshua, and I'm the founder of DeSci World. DeSci World is an information aggregation and community engagement platform for the DeSci space, right? We're like the global hub or the global nexus for decentralized science. So I'm actually being introduced here as a DeFi and a DeSci guy. And the reason for this is actually my original sort of experience in crypto and Web3 is actually in DeFi. Been working in DeFi in a number of fairly high profile DAOs for a few years now. And I've only recently, I say recently, last October, I founded DeSci World and started creating it. It's only really sort of the past 6 months that it's got the growth that we're seeing at the moment. And there's a real big overlap between DeFi and DeSci right now, which I think we're going to go into in this discussion. But I just want to say thank you again for having me. And just to clarify at the beginning, Gonzalo said founder of DeFi and DeSci. Very much not correct. I am the founder of DeSci World, and I'm a contributor to the DeFi space in general.
Okay, so I want to start with something hard because it's the best way to start this. Joshua, how do you get work done within the context of the decentralized autonomous organizations, within the respect for everyone's way of working? Because from my experience in decentralized organizations, it's hard. It's really hard. And we can talk about Notion or Google Drive or ChatGPT, but mostly in your experience on bringing many perspectives that are different, decentralized, how do you get work done at that level? We're talking about the level and the scale that allows change.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fantastic question, right? And starting with this makes sense because DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs in general are a brilliant opportunity for people to do very little work and still get rewarded for it. If you're the kind of person who wants to sort of be in a company and get paid and sort of sit in the background and do not much, it's a very easy way to do that is in a DAO. So therefore, being the founder or someone high up in a DAO whose task it is to decide what work we need to get done and how it gets done, that is a huge task. How do you make sure the work gets done? Generally, I think that the way that work gets done in DAOs, more importantly than anything, is just motivation and alignment of goals, right? A DAO in general is just a group of people around the world potentially sharing resources, but definitely sharing an ideology or a goal, a common purpose. The DAO itself is in a very experimental form right now. The tooling that is available, you mentioned some, obviously Notion, Google Drive, these are Web 2 native tools, but are utilized very heavily at the moment by DAOs. On-chain Web 3 native tools such as snapshot governance. This allows you to vote using a governance token, which basically is what most people use as a membership for a DAO. Most people have these governance tokens in their DAOs. You can then use them. Your holdings of the governance token can be used to vote on DAO proposals. The problem with the DAO system right now is the A part of the DAO name, which is decentralized autonomous organization. Currently, the tool set that is available right now is not autonomous. There is no execution layer from the point of proposing a proposal. And then once that's sort of voted yes, there is no execution, an automatic execution from that proposal saying yes to it being carried out via smart contracts. At the moment, the point of failure is somebody puts a vote up, the DAO votes on it, the vote gets passed, and then somebody has to go ahead and manually, implement that proposal. So the autonomous part is not really currently available right now. So again, it is still very much down on the hands of the people who are running the DAO to ensure that the DAO works efficiently. The only way that I've seen DAOs work so far is a reiterative process, right? This is the best way. If you go into the DAO with a very fixed idea of how the governance proposals will work, how the operations will work, the strategy will work, it very quickly becomes clear that either the system you've built or the people who are running the system, it's just not matching. And you have to be very flexible in a DAO in order to understand that maybe you need new people. Maybe the people you've brought in aren't right to the task. And you maybe need new systems to incentivize those people or engage with those people on a better level. The turnover in a DAO is often quite high because people come and show that they aren't the kind of person who is self-motivated, who can do the work independently without someone looking over their shoulder or someone tracking every single movement. Generally, the churn is quite high because of this. But what you do when you're in this situation is you find those that are gems, those sort of people who are going to self-motivate, who are going to just contribute because they want to contribute, and regardless of how much you're sort of hitting them with a stick telling them to do it. So to answer your question, Gonzalo, how do you get work done? It's a reiterative process is what I want to say. I think it takes a lot to make it work.
And I before we don't have more, you threw a lot of, like someone said, you threw a lot of the sync and the buffer over there, token economics, decision token, the difference between three words that, okay.
Have I stepped a bit far ahead? Shall I go take a step back maybe?
Yeah, let's think that some of the folks that will listen to this, they might be in the beginning of their space company, like myself, okay? And there is a chance for me to, let's say that, for example, now I have a need. I'll give you a need that I really have right now. I'm doing a revision of the design of my moon rover, and the angle of the tack of the wheels needs to be changed, okay? I can do it within the team, or I can say, hey, here is an open bid. I said open bid, but I could just say, I need help. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Then because you guys participate on that, you'll be able, most likely in 2025, to have this piece of wheel on the moon. And of course, you'll be paid. Okay, let's put this. But right now, I need solutions. So is this the type of thing that you can do? And if I'm wrong, please, like Joshua say, we don't do anything as that doesn't make any sense. Please just.
So essentially, the technical question, the technical answer is anything that you want to be done can be done, which is not very helpful. But in this situation, what you're talking about in the DAO, DAO in the DAO terminology, I guess, is a bounty, which is you have a specific task and you put it up into a public sort of board, public notice board. Someone comes along and then they can take that task, complete that task, verify it using some kind of on-chain sort of verification. Maybe they submit a transaction, maybe they submit the data is submitted via NFT. The idea is that there should be some kind of on-chain verification, some along the process, of which the DAO can then utilize and say, right, this is completed. We now fund this person with their payment. There's lots of cool things that can be done with crypto payments, such as escrow, which you can say, right, Gonzalo, you're going to put your $100,000 or whatever you're rewarding, you're going to put your $1,000 into an escrow, which is held in a smart contract. Then the other side, who's the engineer, he can see that you've paid it up, and the only way that fund can be released is if you complete your task. So there's a trustless element here, and the trustlessness is a vital part of the DAO process, right? It's I don't know you, and I'm an engineer. How do I trust that you're going to pay me for my work? And vice versa. How do you trust that engineer is going to produce good work before you pay him? This is where the DAO comes in. This is where the blockchain comes in to make it a much more resilient system.
And let me jump for a second. It's really, I believe it's the right time. One of the proposals of Lunka is to provide a space for engineering data exchange that would be verifiable. Like basically, it's an important part of that career, but it all starts with engineering. Like engineers need to exchange information and with the possibility to track who did what, it would be much easier and maybe it's easy, but it could be useful when you try to when you reward all the people. It would allow you to track all the changes on all of the
Yeah, I mean, so
modifications
if you look at something like GitHub,
Yep.
right? GitHub has a change log. GitHub is to non-blockchain based version of what many blockchain sort of storage systems look like. Is you have change logs, you have transaction histories, and it's not only that. You say it's more you mentioned, Rod, you said it makes it easier, and then you stopped yourself and you said actually maybe not easier, and it is true, right? At the moment, all of this tech is brand new, and implementing it into your systems is quite time consuming. It's quite cost intensive. But the thing about the blockchain systems is once it's set up, it is set up and it's very, very smooth, very efficient. The data storage is very good. It's immutable, for example, right? But it's also like every time you make a transaction, every time the engineer, for example, submits a piece of data, it's not just them submitting data so that you get it, it's them transferring you the data, but the blockchain also stores that data in a time-stamped immutable ledger, which you can access at any point from anywhere in the world using, the blockchain explorer, for example. So it's like a transactional sort of a communications platform and also a data storage platform at the same time. Every time you communicate with someone and you pass data over the blockchain, not only are you passing it in a global, cheap, efficient manner, but also you're storing it in a fantastic ledger that doesn't exist in any other place.
And so let's imagine this scenario, and you'll know where I'm going at this because we've kind of prepped this. I'm this US company, okay, and let's say that I'm building a small satellite launcher, okay. It's not that hard. It has two engines. Many of them are in the market. It has two stages. I need to go to LEO, low Earth orbit, but I need some help in the integration, okay. How? And I decided no, I'm gonna use Joshua DeFi and DeSci, both sides. But I'm concerned that bad actors pick up my integration specs and they utilize them to do things. What should I do? What should I do? Okay, the purpose of this is that the belief, Joshua, is that you and these systems can accelerate the amount of innovation, accelerate to a point that instead of waiting 3 months, that's kind of the time that this thing would take, you can do it in a week. And that's massive. How can I stop bad actors?
Yeah, so I mean, stopping bad actors in DeFi and DeSci is a very broad question. If we're talking about specifically protection of IP, is that specifically what we're talking about? Yeah. So in terms of protection of IP, it's quite a difficult thing right now. So currently, smart contracts and basically all blockchain-based code has licensing agreements. If you go to any of the contracts for any of the Ethereum-based dApps, you can go onto their code and you see at the very top it says their licensing agreement. And there's very many different types of licensing agreement. Some include completely open source, like MIT license, for example, and some include copywriting and everything all the way down. And that's legally enforceable. Now, when it comes to something like, for example, what you're talking about, which is an outside data that you own, some kind of like anything that you want to put on the blockchain in terms of transferring the data, but it's a brand new IP or it's copyrighted and you want to protect it. Currently, DeSci is the place where this is trying to be solved. DeFi mostly deploys the smart contracts via Ethereum and other blockchains in the form of the dApps, which are when you go onto Etherscan, you can see the contracts. These have their own licensing agreements. You can check up about this. DeSci is really trying to solve this copyright issue, this IP issue, with specifically like data being put onto the blockchain. Because right now there is no actual framework that exists that is a foundational framework in which you can put data on the blockchain and it protects you as an IP because the blockchain is fundamentally open source, right? There is currently something called the IP NFT, and NFTs are non-fungible tokens. It's like most cryptocurrencies, except that it's a unique address per NFT. So you can't trade them in a liquidity pool like most other, like Bitcoin or Ethereum. It's very different to that. But the IP NFT is essentially allowing you to have an IP agreement, which is a legally binding IP agreement in the real world, right? And off the blockchain. But the data for this, the actual agreement, is hosted on this NFT, and therefore it is basically just like your IP agreement, but it exists on the blockchain. And you can associate this with your research. Should, for example, you decide to put up a bounty for someone to come along and do some research, they do that research using your platform. The IP NFT is attached to the data that you've deposited. The only thing is that that IP agreement is a real world legal document. So there is no native solution right now for blockchain or Web3 to protect your IP. This is something that's being looked at, and there's a number of very interesting sort of mechanics. One in particular, which I recommend everybody here to go and look at, because especially with space exploration, I think this is something that would become, very useful. It's called the HyperCert framework. So HyperCert, cert as the certification, and it's being developed by Protocol Labs. And this is a foundational layer. It's called a primitive, a foundational layer piece of code, and you can basically implement it into whatever. What this HyperCert does is it allows you to create this an impact agreement, which is essentially somebody comes along with the idea of something that's going to have an impact, be it charitable, be it scientific or whatever. That impact is then almost sort of like commodified, and the more impact it makes, the more the creator of the HyperCert and the funders of the HyperCert, anybody that's involved in its genesis, or anybody else you want to be involved, you can code this in. The people who create the HyperCert are given kickback further down the line for the amount of impact that it has. So if, for example, you created this bounty to have this piece of engineering done, maybe 3 or 4 people could bid on it, and they all go into a HyperCert agreement. The ones that are utilized the most moving forward are the ones that gain the most impact. This is the one that's the most sort of profitable, almost. It gets the most return on revenue. And this is a way to essentially commodify the process of creating something with an impact. Gonzalo, I think you're muted.
I didn't use ChatGPT for this, but I used Google, and it still is there. Okay, interesting piece. I've been thinking about in the next 3 months ahead from now, 4 months, you'll have the new space commerce workshop, and it would be interesting to see someone from your community there, because it's the main place where all the commercial space. Okay, in the US, I'm very US centric. Well, I live here, so it's easier to be US centric. But it would be an interesting place to see at least an explanation of these tools and methods, Joshua. And I've raised the same need for awareness, and kind of also the objective of these conversations is to bring this awareness, because mostly because of speed. Speed of innovation is the thing.
I just want to sort of mention something to the people listening. All of this is brand new tech. 2 years in the making. I'm talking DeFi, DeSci. HyperCerts are less than 1 year old. In what it is seen as now. This is all brand new tech, and the speed of innovation on the tech that we're building itself is massive. It's super rapid. But the tech that is being built is exactly what you're describing. It's going to help innovation flourish at a rate that we've never seen before. Like, it will be a second renaissance of science, a second renaissance of pretty much everything, if this decentralized organization structure which we're being built here, and not just organization in terms of how we communicate, but also how we transact, how we store information, how we store money, how we trust each other. It's gonna really, really change the game in terms of the speed of innovation. And right now, the things I'm describing, they seem quite ethereal because there's no particularly strong use case out there right now. But it's the process. And in 5 years' time, I think everybody in the sort of non-governmental space will be using things like this to decentralize the workflow, and not just decentralize the workflow because it's more efficient, more effective, but because you get more ideas and you engage more people than you can ever imagine possible.
Do you see a world, and I've imagined this, I'm challenged sometimes with, I've got in here a concept design, a thing, like wheels that connect with these, and someone, but we should have a revision of the part, or we should have a different way to do that. And the pool that we have is the pool that it's inside the company. And what you are saying is that the pool that you have is everyone, correct?
Yeah.
That's what I'm listening. And I was like,
as long as you have an internet connection, right? If you have an internet connection, then you can be in.
So I want to kick this into something before Manuel brings the science and Rod. Why did you get into these, man? What it's so many things. I believe you are from the UK, with so many good things to do in there. Become a prime minister, change the inflation rate, go back to the EU agreements. With so many interesting things to do. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. And not to be too controversial, I'm sure there's many people who are listening who will absolutely disagree with what I say now. But those things you mentioned, maybe changing the inflation rate or getting back into the EU or being prime minister, I know you were sort of joking, but if you ask me, trying to change things through that route is an absolute fool's errand. And I don't think that we can actually change anything fundamentally using the systems that exist in the governments today, especially in the UK. Some smaller countries maybe have better actual representation of what the people want and need. But where I live in the UK, absolutely not. And I've grown up in this system and seen it for what it is, especially the sort of the propaganda state that we live in, that the whole world lives under. And I've decided that I didn't really want to be a part of it. I wanted to see some kind of alternate systems, and I wanted to see some kind of way to change the current system, or at least impact in some way the lives of the regular people who really want to have this current system change them. So this is a new system. It's an alternative system. It will, of course, have to amalgamate with the current system, and that's kind of what we're here to do, is to maybe try and protect it in some of its purer forms before it kind of goes into the current system and becomes mixed with some of the things we don't want in terms of stringent regulations, etc. So I got into this space through DeFi because I wanted to see some change, and I wanted to see some different systems, and it was just so exciting seeing all this innovation being done, and it's nothing that's ever existed before, and it is completely unique. And then DeSci is where I've actually found myself in the last year, because I've always had an interest in the research sort of institution that exists in the world today, especially the historical ones. And I think over the last 50 to 100 years, the movement of science away from the pursuit of natural truth has become a bit, quite all encompassing. It's become more about the pursuit of profitable truths, maybe. And I want to see that return to the pursuit of the natural truth, which I think a lot of people, especially in space travel, are very excited about also.
Great, Joshua. I also got a question for you, because if I imagine these sort of really traditional industries, and I would definitely count the space industry as one traditional industry by itself, also the whole academic field is really, on the one hand, open to innovation, but on the other side, please do not be too innovative for us. So my question to you is, how did you not only collaborate with these official stakeholders that are really traditional in their way of thinking, but also how did you, as an organization, as a collective, as a DAO, how did you educate them about the overall challenges, but also these great possibilities that we can see in decentralized science right now? So please feel free to share your experience as well.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'll preface this by saying DeSci is probably more so than DeFi trying to collaborate with these existing institutions. I think that's because scientists in general just want to see better science done, and the DeFi people in general want to see a new financial system. So that's something that I've sort of picked up, is that the DeSci space is much more collaborative, or intending to be collaborative, and the DeFi space, whilst it is collaborating because it must in order to survive, there's generally the vibe is that DeFi wants to remain as an alternate system. From the DeSci perspective, generally it's the sort of innovators in the existing institutions that want to engage with something like this. And the argument that we have in DeSci is it's going to become the most efficient way to do science. And as I said, generally scientists just want to do better science. So DeSci is actually a pretty easy sell. Once the tools that we're building right now are fully fledged out, give it a year or so, it's going to be absolutely 100% a far more superior way to do science. And I think that most scientists will just be interested in that, in better science. On the other side, on the DeFi side, this is a much deeper and more interesting argument, if you ask me, because we have a large, powerful financial institution that exists globally, but also in each individual state. And the DeFi fundamentally replaces a lot of the financial institutions, because in financial institutions, monetary supply, the way that the money is distributed, the way that the profits are done, the rehypothecation of funds, all of this is removed in DeFi, and that essentially returns all of this power of finance back to the individual, the user. So interacting with the traditional financial system and the DeFi financial system, there's massive issues there. And I think that the only way that DeFi will survive, unfortunately, is if we concede a lot on some of our ideological points. DeSci, however, I think will succeed just because it's more powerful.
Okay, great answer. Thanks a lot for this answer. I also got one more question related to the data storage that we see in decentralized science as well. How do you envision the future of DeSci when it comes, for example, to industries with very sensitive data, where a really open approach might not be the best option for many stakeholders? How do you envision the tool set there? And what might be some benefits for official stakeholders to actually make maybe some form of hybrid development there as well? But I'm totally open for your answer now.
Yeah, so I imagine that the hybrid implementation is what we'll go through, in the sense that if you can imagine a government has very highly sensitive information, they want to utilize the DeSci infrastructure because you have this distributed network of researchers, you have this decentralized funding sources, you have decentralized high quality peer reviews and journals and publications, etc. But the data is very sensitive. They would obviously have some kind of separate, maybe their own blockchain, their own private blockchain. This is all very possible, but maybe just a separate standard data center in which the data is hosted. That would then call upon, maybe you'd have a particular wallet address or some kind of on-chain identity, which you must have as a government employee in order to access that data. That is probably how I think it will end up. Now, what the sort of DeSci purists hope might happen is this concept called the data lake. And the data lake is this concept of all data available to anyone, and it's just flowing around, and it's hosted in a decentralized manner. For example, IPFS, Interplanetary File System, which space people might like that name. So this is decentralized hosting. It's like a torrenting service almost, but for data. The idea is that in the data lake, all data is hosted via this. It's accessible by anyone. It's completely open source. And the moral question of, well, what about these codes to this nuclear bomb? Why are we going to publish this? What if someone gets hold of that? Then that brings about a brand new question, right? And it's a very philosophical argument at the same time of, well, why does one person deserve to have the access to this information over another, etc.? And the idea is, if you proliferate much of the information that's dangerous, does it no longer become dangerous? This sort of thing. But yes, I see the most likely implementation is some form of data lake, but some things are kept private. The one thing that is important to know is that the data lake will have portals, right? So if you can imagine a lake, and how do you dip into that lake? Well, you can't just jump into it because it's very difficult to sift through all the data. So there'll be separate businesses, entire ecosystems spun up about how to access that data. Hoovering up the data from the lake, having an interface in which you can integrate with. Maybe it's a paid service, who knows? So the data lake will exist at some point in some respect, and the thing that's going to be sort of the space to watch is those portals that get the data from those lakes and distribute it to users.
Okay, great. Thanks for your answer. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, thanks. I have a more technical question. Basically, how people can jump into DeFi and DeFi. I mean, how they can get tokens, and yeah, how they can get tokens, and how can I, as a founder, how can I, make kind of a token sale? What decentralized tools are available and things like that. Would be amazing if you could clarify.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to preface this. This is no financial advice nor legal advice. If you're going to launch a token or buy a token, please ensure it's okay to do so in your own sort of jurisdiction. But if you want to buy tokens, there's many ways to do so. A lot of tokens are listed on centralized exchanges. So your typical Binance, Coinbase, Huobi, OKX, etc. These have a lot of tokens that you can buy. and you can just create an account, fund it with your bank account, and buy the tokens. It's important to know that these are off-chain, which means they're not they're non-custodial, so that means that they look after them for you. So they're custodial, so they look after them for you. A lot of the tokens which are of our favorite projects in DeSci, etc., don't exist on a centralized exchange because that's a specific choice from them. Look, like I'd say 95% of all tokens exist in the decentralized exchanges, and a very popular one is Uniswap. This is the one that you'd probably use for most of your token purchases. In order to use Uniswap, you have to have a decentralized wallet. A very popular one is MetaMask. If you go to Google and type in Web3 wallet, please do some due diligence first, but MetaMask is the best one, or the most commonly used one anyways. You can go there, fund it with your own tokens, with your own Ethereum, and then you can buy it using these decentralized exchanges. That's how you buy the tokens. How you create your own tokens, it's actually quite a simple thing to do to create your own token if you know, a modicum of code and Solidity, which is the Ethereum coding language. It's a fairly simple lift, but there's many complexities to it in terms of making additional utilities, creating the possibilities with tokenomics are endless. And that's why it's such an interesting space, because you can really design your tokens to be absolutely unique for your use case. And it can basically be whatever you want it to be. But in terms of creating your own token, you need to find a developer that can code Solidity, and you need to really have a use case for it. You create it out of thin air. The thing that makes it valuable, the thing that makes it useful, is when you pair it with a valuable token such as Ethereum or USDC, Tether, something like this, in a liquidity pool. Once you have that liquidity pool, now your token has an inherent value. Otherwise, if there's nothing to trade it against, it's worthless. It exists in the ether. When you put it into a liquidity pool, to a market that you can trade against, that's when it has the value.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for clarification.
Please ask me anything about tokens if you want. I have a keen interest in that.
I think we have other guys who
Yeah.
are coming and have a
We
lot of
also
questions.
we have
Let me
Paige.
pass.
She's from the Frontier DAO. Oh, and she's gone again. Okay. Okay, I have some before Paige comes in. I wanted to ask you what's going to happen next year.
For myself or for the space?
Yes, for the space.
For the space. So next year for DeSci, there's going to be the first $1 billion market cap DeSci token. I think you'll see that next year. So currently there's about 50 DeFi projects that have a $1 billion market cap, and nothing. The largest DeSci token is like $5 million or something. I think next year we're going to see, by the end of next year, we'll see a $1 billion DeSci token of some description. And that's because DeSci is a slightly different industry to DeFi, and it's existing in its own microcosm. And I think that regardless of what happens with DeFi, we'll see some interest in DeSci. I think that we'll see some fundamental sort of tools built. For example, the hypercerts will be used and utilized. I think, for example, the IP NFTs will be built out so that they can be sort of almost foolproof. I think there's a project called DeSci Labs, and they're creating a new thing called DeSci Nodes. Absolutely everybody who's interested in reading research should check this out. DeSci Nodes is basically creating a new research object viewing interface, such that instead of viewing a PDF, you can view every single piece of data that research has collated, including any scripts that they ran, including any sort of like any research collaborations or anything like that, all viewable in a PDF viewer because they've been hosted on the DeSci nodes. So I think next year we're going to see big fundamental tools built that really empower the DeScientists. I think we'll see a lot of money flowing into it. And I think we'll see actually some institutional partners utilizing DeSci for maybe sort of more long tail research assets, and especially data storage and data handling. So that's how I think the DeSci space will go. And from my perspective, my project DeSci World, we are actually going through a funding round right now, and we're sort of halfway through it. We'll end this funding round out in about a month to 2 months time. And for us personally, we're going to be doing a massive massive campaign over the next few years, especially the next year, of onboarding and helping to onboard research scientists, people who are DeSci curious, and especially young researchers, students, this sort of thing. So that for us, that's a big thing. And if anyone has any question about the round, for me personally, we are still open, so anyone can message me afterwards.
Okay, great. I'll bring also Paige in here because she has a set of questions, I believe. Hello, Paige. She might be coming up in the next few minutes, seconds. Sometimes these new technologies take a bit of time to harness.
Yeah, it's a nice system, though.
I since we are all in here, I want essentially to oh, here we are. It's better to bring you Josh in and then Manuel. Do you see, and the parallel could be wrong, okay? Please feel free to correct, because it was not in our script. But as you were talking about, more things came into my mind as I saw across the work that I've done in other companies. Sometimes things get outsourced, and I'll give you an example. Accounting, you might not enjoy this, but accounting was done for many years. Many companies would do accounting in their own country, and then suddenly they said, "Oh no, we've got someone that is as technically proficient as us in another country. It's less expensive. We can trust it," and they became doing accounting in the UK, but being done in India or being done in Scotland. Well, Scotland, okay, being done somewhere else. Do you see that new space companies can start having, oh, this is our Web3 DeSci or DeFi, DeSci and DeFi department or zone? Do you see that happening as a merge? And if that's so, what would be the next step? Think about my company, okay? Building moon rovers and providing services on global improvement.
So, okay, if we use your company as an example, you're creating moon rovers, right? Well, the actual manufacturing process, whilst you may outsource some of these smaller parts to abroad for cheapness or better quality, most of it would happen in-house because it's the most important part of the business is creating the land rovers and making sure that they actually work. But before this aspect, you have to do a lot of research into the engineering tasks and maybe some other sort of science aspects to it. Outsourcing that is absolutely a no-brainer, in my opinion. Having a Web3 sort of section on your business is an absolute no-brainer, because whilst quality control is absolutely important, you can outsource and get hundreds of ideas for much cheaper, much quicker, right? And still do the quality control on your own end before you implement it into the manufacturing process. So rather than sort of go into maybe focus groups or people internally in your company and have 5 to 10, 15 ideas, you can have a Web3 division in which you have bounties, you have sort of larger communities, you access the wider DeSci ecosystem, and you post these ideas out and get hundreds of thousands, of really potentially brilliant ideas, thinking outside the box, much cheaper. And you can sift through these and have quality control on these. And maybe this could improve your business massively. So that's just one aspect, is sort of outsourcing the research goals. But you can outsource anything, and the aspect of quality control is probably where most people are worried the most. But just because it's outsourced outside your country or outside your immediate jurisdiction doesn't mean the quality is going to be worse. You just have to maybe be a bit more careful.
Okay. Do you see a playbook coming out of this? Do you see a playbook of, okay, I'm in my first funding round, I just got enough to start building, or I'm already an established company, I'm a LM, and LM means Lockheed Martin, okay? And man, I need to change the Mars lander. Is that a playbook that already exists, or is it something that needs to be built, or what's the direction over there? Because you're right, it's before you answer, I worked with the World Design Organization, and we had teams working across the world 24/7. And our presentation started with one deck, and a couple of hours later, when everyone was sleeping, other hundreds of people were working, and suddenly, wow! And it's like this. So How do you see that happening? How do you have a playbook? Do you have a suggestion? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, so the playbook is still being written right now because it's such a new space. And it's very important to know that everybody who's interested right now is still very early and still part of that innovator group, and is still part of the people that are writing this playbook. Okay, so if you want to see a playbook in this particular aspect, then you should be part of the people that build that. One thing is important to know is that funding, you said if you're in a first funding round, if you're not utilizing decentralized funding sources during your funding round, then you're missing out on the biggest innovation that's happened in the past 5 years, right? DeFi is just decentralized finance. Decentralized funding of research is DeFi, right? It's just utilizing what has been built in DeFi for scientific purposes. DeFi is well built at this point. It's been alive for 3 years, which isn't a very long time, but it's been iterated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for those 3 years. It's been hacked, it's been stress tested, it's been innovated on so much. DeFi allows you to have decentralized funding sources in a secure way, in an anonymized way. Some people might want to do this for whatever reasons. If you're in a funding round, you absolutely must try and integrate with Web3 so you can use decentralized funding sources. It's creative. You can do so based on sort of $5 donations here and there from 100,000 people. You can do so based on charity giving. You can do so based on it. Generally, the funding landscape outside of the VC Web2 space, if you use Web3 and DeFi, you're going to have a much better success rate. No financial advice. You guys are muted, I think.
Let's check if we have any questions over here, except for not yet. We still have some things to cover. Do you have some examples that you can share of impact that you made, Joshua, both in the DeFi or more that DeFi and Manuel has been promoting this as we meet. We've talked a lot about DeFi, and I'm still over my head on peer review in a DeFi world. The reason it's simple. When you log into platforms that have people that self-publish, it's good, but it's hard to understand. Sometimes things are done with non-knowledge of statistical modeling, or and then suddenly you've got I've published 5 papers on academia. Hey, no pun intended to academia. I'm just saying that you are able to do a lot of things. So how is that peer review happening? Is it yeah?
It's a good question. So I want to first, I don't want to straw man this, but the traditional scientific and research system also has many avenues for poor science to be done, for publishing to be done that is grifting, scams, whatever. The reproducibility crisis. Sorry, the reproducibility crisis has become a massive issue, right? Because of this very reason. Because some people are publishing papers that maybe are not really valid for being published under those names. The decentralized peer review system is exactly the same as the current peer review system, except that it's done in a decentralized manner, right? People like to people assume immediately when you say a decentralized peer review system that you're letting just Joe Blogs and Jane Smith, people who have no experience doing anything, to verify or to peer review these sort of papers. That's not the case at all. In fact, it's far easier to prove the credentials of a person using a blockchain than it is in a traditional financial sense, or traditional science sense, sorry. You can even do so anonymously using a fantastic piece of technology which is being built right now called ZK proofs, or zero knowledge proofs, something that everybody should check out, especially those who enjoy maths, because it's very technical. But ZK proofs will allow you to sort of absolutely verify, like truth, a piece of information without revealing that piece of information. So, for example, if I'm a researcher and I have multiple PhDs and multiple qualifications, I can prove that I have those qualifications without telling that person where I went to school, what my name is, etc. Right? So this unlocks all kinds of possibilities. Imagine you are working for Big Pharma. Okay, you work for Big Pharma, you know lots of things about what's happening, and then someone comes along with a research proposal or a research paper that you have a very strong, active opinion on, so you go to peer review it. but you don't want to do so if your name's on it because you might lose your job. So something like a ZK proof allows you to use your genuine brain, your expertise, your skill, without the fear of maybe being fired from your job. And that's just an extreme example, but it's a very interesting example. The decentralized peer review system will essentially be built just like the current one is, in the sense that you have verified reviewers, verified actors. They're verified using on-chain credentials, which are being built all over the place. And these on-chain credentials are immutable. There's no way to hack them. There's no way to sort of change them or to cheat on them. And that's the beauty of the decentralized peer review is, whilst one might think on the surface it's decentralized, therefore it's less secure, it's less trusted, it's less legitimate. In fact, it's the opposite. The decentralized peer review process will become much more trustable, much more legitimate, and much more secure.
Wow, you're opening up a can of possibilities.
Hey,
Not a
blockchain has done it, and it's a tool, right? Technology is just a tool, and it reflects the intentions of the wielder. There's going to be some fantastic innovations, and there will probably be some innovations in a negative direction based on blockchain. And it's the new tech. It's the new paradigm, right?
Manuel, do you have any departing comments or questions for Joshua, please?
Yeah, sure. I totally agree on your views related to the peer review. One former co-founder of mine, he is also working on some form of solutions related to exactly these topics. How can we make peer reviews more democratic and incentivize in a more sustainable way than we saw it over the last couple of decades in the academic world, right? That there were a lot of gatekeepers, right, extracting a lot of value from the scientists that originally, right, started with science and learning more about our environment and about our ecosystem to create value instead of extracting it when they are right in the process, right? So I see a lot of potential there. Also, when it comes to regenerative finance, so how can we create more impact, or how can we support more impact research in a way that it is aligned with the decentralized science movement? And what I see there is that many people and many players, many stakeholders out of the original DeFi space, right? They onboard more projects in the field of DeFi. They are totally open to connect and to create more initiatives. So let's see where things will heading towards, right? I mean, we're currently building the playbook, right, to make the academic world more better in a way for society. So let's find out together, I would say, and make this vision a reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rod, same thing. What are your departing questions, thoughts, ideas, and what to ask Joshua?
Really happy.
Rod, you're having some mic issues.
Your audio is a bit
Can you hear
finicky. Okay,
It's-
try to fix it. Paige, do you have comments or questions for Rod now that we can have you? I see the expression, but no audio. Okay.
We also cannot hear you, Paige.
Well, this technology bump is making us shift. Joshua, since we've been having, I think Rod is back. Rod, can we test before we close?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, much better.
Cool.
Oh, great. Well, first of all, I want to say thanks to Joshua, because I have a lot to think about. It would be, I think, my last words in that. I hope that in a year there would be a lot of guides how people could start their own, how they make their own token for their community, and a lot of amazing and simple tools to emerge, because right now, unfortunately, I have a lot of friends who are interested in DeFi, who are interested in supporting the projects, but it's still too complicated. And as Joshua said, with when the 95% of projects are published on decentralized exchanges, like a guide to that system has to be created. So I hope more people would join the movement with the tools and the discoverability improved of the projects inside the ecosystem. And thanks all for attending our event today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I think you're right. There needs to be better onboarding. There needs to be better guides. DeSci World, the project I'm from, DeSci World, we are entirely about this, helping people to be onboarded into the decentralized science, in particular the decentralized science space. If you go to DeSci.world, you can see a whole bunch of information, launch our app, see a list of all the DeSci projects that are building right now. Lunco is listed on there as well. So please go ahead and check that out, and come to our community, our Discord or whatever, our Twitter, and get engaged. We'll be there to talk to you and help you through. The concept of having a token as a project is very interesting. It cannot be understated how important those tokens are for people to have sovereignty over their own organization, sovereignty over their own movements, right? The problem with the token is it becomes monetized very quickly, and that's when you start playing with fire. So as Rod said, it's very complicated. On the surface, it's very simple. You can launch a token and make it valuable. But to get it right, to get the token economics right, to get all of this right and make sure it's beneficial for your project and the people contributing, it's a finicky task. So I'm looking forward to seeing how tokens are utilized moving forward, especially for science.
Okay, Josh, thanks. A couple of remarks before we depart. We've been trying to bring Paige. I think she also has a similar or a project called I Did Sci World. Are you aware of it, or is it concurrent? How does it work together?
Are you asking me or Paige?
No, we've got Paige over there, but we are unable to have her speak, so I'm trying to speak for her and asking you if this is a concurrent initiative. Can you help?
Yeah, so I'm aware of Frontier DAO as the sort of founder of DeSci World. I have to be aware of pretty much every DAO that exists in DeSci. There are some similarities in the sense that we're both trying to sort of further the scientific process through DeSci, but DeSci World is very much specifically just about sort of engaging with those onboarding, those coming onto DeSci, and aggregating information, and this sort of like community engagement platform, information aggregation. It's like a hub where you come and learn and get connected. Frontier DAO is more sort of actually trying with a specific mission to further certain things. We are not actually, we're pretty agnostic in terms of what we support. We support DeSci. And Frontier DAO, I don't actually know, Paige, if they're not, Frontier DAO should be listed on the DeSci World dashboard. If they're not, Paige, please come and get Frontier DAO listed on our dashboard. And that is how we will be working together moving forward, I guess, is DeSci World will just continue to support Frontier DAO and the whole ecosystem.
Okay, great. So what I think from my side, Joshua, what I would like and I also believe Paige has same Paige, Rod, and Manuel in the Space Founder Circles. We have the similar objectives. It's if we engage new space companies or not so new space companies, this is particular to this, both in the funding side or in the engineering side, in different stages of the life cycle. Where can they go? Should they contact you? Should they contact us? Should they contact everyone? Or what's your view for, I'm going to say, intake of people overall? Because if you write down right now DeSci or DeFi, you've got 10 big links, or it's hard to understand if I'm seated with my founder in here and my 3 persons, I just got $1 million or 1,500, whatever, and okay, what should I do? Should I trust? Yeah, that would be my concern.
Yeah, where do you go, right? Okay, so it depends on what you need. If you need people, if you need funding, if you need infrastructure, if you need research done for you, all of these have different answers. Right now, as I said, DeSci World is trying to get on top of this and make it such that in a year's time, anyone who doesn't know can come and get answers to all of these in a flash. Right now, if you want funding, I would say you must go to, depending on if you're a Web3 native space exploration project, for example. If you want funding, you should be going to places that give grants. So a lot of these foundations, for example, Polygon, Ethereum Foundation, Nia Foundation, many of these blockchains themselves give out pretty hefty grants just for using their tech stack. You can get up to $100,000 from Polygon, for example, if you have a really good idea and you manage to convince them. For funding, you should look firstly at grants, because there's a lot of grants in the DeFi and the crypto ecosystem. Secondarily, you should look at Web3 native funds. Tertiary, you should go to VCs. The good thing is that you can also do decentralized fundraising, so you can actually go to communities and say, hey, look, we are raising for our project. Let's get everybody to put $100 in, and you can raise a lot through that way. If you want sort of connections and networks and things like that, you can actually come to DeSci.world or DeSci World or speak to me directly through LinkedIn. That is what we're here to do, is to provide a platform so you can do it yourself, but also to actually provide a service, people that you can speak to get connected, to understand the space. So that's definitely somewhere we can help, is if you need to understand the space, especially DeSci, you want to be connected to the right people. If you need help with the funding or the tokenomics or anything like that, that is actually what we provide at DeSci World.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for this. We have some comments coming on LinkedIn from Paige regarding peer review, regarding methods, and I will follow up with them next. Josh, thank you very much. I think this opens up a bit of a challenge also for you and for us all to onboard more people, but a challenge for the overall, this type of community to appear in person in space initiatives. Okay, I know it's expensive, but it might pay off in terms of building trust and showing up and shaking hands. And if we can shake hands, I think we can already shake hands, and saying hello to other actors in person and explaining these mind-boggling possibilities.
Absolutely. I mean, what you've put together here, this podcast that we're doing right now, is fantastic. Thank you so much for inviting me. Like, the format is great, the content is great, the attendance is fantastic. This is the step up from sort of messaging each other, but we are still humans at the end of the day, and we need that physical space in order to connect, right? So yes, it might be expensive to fly to San Francisco, for example, to meet, but if it's worth it, it's worth it. And if it's your passion, you really should be at these events. I'm actually going to go soon after this to an event in the city to meet people who are also doing more tokenomics DeSci stuff. And it's just so important. When we work in these virtual environments, we always forget how important those physical handshakes, those eye-to-eye conversations are, and they're always valuable.
Okay, everyone, Josh will definitely meet next, and everyone will have follow-ups from here with the folks that appeared today. We'll take care of any technical issues that there existed. We'll also share more information on this. Wow. well done, everyone, and thanks. Have a fantastic end of week, and I hope Portugal wins. I know I shouldn't say this, but
England plays tomorrow. No, let's not.
No, England is well suited, and this is a conversation about soccer. I just derived a bit, but it's impossible not to talk about it. It's very hard.
It's exciting.
It's very exciting to see the world also convey around some kind of idea. So thanks, Joshua. Thanks, Manuel. Thanks, Paige and Rob. And enjoy.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
See you soon, guys.